Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Swords of Nerdom, Episode 2. Again, we will be going over some of the coolest, most epic, legendary status swords in all of Nerdom. So here we go! First up on our list for this episode is Excalibur. Excalibur is a divine construct, the pinnacle of holy swords, and one of the ultimate god-forged weapons, a last phantasm, forged by the planet's crystallization of wishes and mankind, stored and tempered within the planet itself. It was guarded by extensions of the planet called fairies, before briefly being passed on to Arthur by the Lady of the Lake, and later returned to the lake before her death. While there are many other noble phantasms crafted and splendidly and with better skill, Excalibur is an illusion far superior to them. It cannot be called beautiful because of its appearance, because the description beautiful will only dirty it. It is instead sacred, made from people's conception, legends weaved only out of hope. It is not a myth or inhuman work, but a crystal trained by the heart alone, making it reign as the strongest fantasy. It is considered to be one of the strongest noble phantasms, with its speed, attack power, and reach, upon being activated, surpassing and remaining unrivaled by all others. The Saiga. The swordsmith Totosai created the Saiga from the fang of the father of Inuyasha and Sesshomaru. In its docile form, the sword looked like a regular or rather battered katana. When wielded properly, it was transformed into a weapon roughly the size of a car bumper. The Saiga had the power to slay 100 demons in one swing, and it also had the ability to absorb the technique or skill of a strong demon that was defeated by the sword. The sword has multiple appearance changes, such as the diamond blade or the dragon scale blade. Each one of these appearance changes offered a new form of attack, from the basic being the wind scar to the final being the dark path of the dawn's moon wave. This technique was obtained by Sesshomaru's Saiga breaking on the Saiga. The original technique manifested as a giant black circle that sent anything within the vicinity directly to the netherworld. Once Inuyasha completely mastered the black Saiga, the Saiga could fire multiple black crescent-shaped portals that not only cut an opponent, but have their remains sucked into the path. Thus, the technique kept its original ability intact while also adding the Saiga's cutting nature. It seemed to be stronger than the original, as it was able to tear apart Naraku's final form, which was impervious to the original move. Next up, Zangetsu, also known as the Slaying Moon. In its sealed form, it resembles a regular katana, only abnormally large in size due to Ichigo's inability to control its spiritual pressure. In Bankai form, Zangetsu's shape and size are contradictory to the massive amount of spirit force that goes into forming and using it. Called Tensa Zangetsu, literal meaning Heavenly Chains Moon Cutter. It resembles a Nodachi, a large two-handed Japanese sword with a long black blade, hilt, and a short chain attached to it with a handguard shape of a manji symbol. Because Ichigo's spiritual power is compressed into the Bankai's small form, he's able to employ ultra high-speed movement faster than the Flash Step, which is a Soul Reaper technique for high-speed movement. Getsuga Tensho in Bankai mode, which was initially used by Ichigo's inner hollow, has a few discrepancies from its Shikai form. In Bankai, several waves can be fired in succession, and their paths can be controlled as well. Ichigo recently demonstrated a new ability for Getsuga Tensho, in which he holds the technique on the blade to increase the strength of his melee attacks. The Runescape Godsword. Out of all the Godswords today, I will be going over Saradomin specifically, and giving details on its creation. The Saradomin Godsword is one of the 4 legendary Godswords that were fought over during the God Wars. The Battle of the Godsword. With Samurai beaten back, Saradomin sought to deliver the killing blow, forming a loose alliance between himself, Armadillo, and Bandos. He planned the creation of a mighty weapon, hint, the Godsword. The bird-like followers of Armadillo were tasked with forging and delivering the blade, while each of the 3 gods created their own hilt to control its power. Zamorak, hearing of the weapon's creation, sent a task force commanded by the legendary Krill and created his own hilt in hopes of turning the weapon against his enemies. The winged followers of Armadillo, upon making contact with Krill, were forced to retreat to the nearby temple of the Lost Ancients, setting up a defense within the temple and aided by Saradominist and Bandosian reinforcements. The alliance managed to hold back the Zamorakians, but as the fighting carried on, the allure of the Godsword proved too great to resist. The battle suddenly turned into a chaotic free-for-all to control the Godsword. The Saradomin Godsword has a special attack, the Healing Blade, which deals 175% weapon damage and restores life points by half the damage dealt, and prayer points by 2.5% of it. The power of self-respect is the second sword Scott earns and only appears in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the movie. This sword emerges from Scott's chest in the same style as the power of love, though it glows purple instead of red. This sword shatters Gideon's first sword and holds up well against the pixel katana, but is eventually shattered too. Scott unlocks this weapon after dying the first time and realizing he doesn't need to be fighting for just Ramona, but also himself. This sword acts as the movie counterpart of the power of understanding. In his second try at the final battle, Scott uses it to defeat all of Gideon's hipsters, as he did with the power of love, but better and faster than before. Then when he clashes with Gideon himself in midair, Scott uses both hands for a more powerful two-handed strike, which slashes Gideon across the arm, temporarily incapacitating him, and shatters his first sword. Scott settles things with knives and Ramona before battling Gideon again. The power of self-respect is shattered when Scott tries to block a blow from Gideon's pixel katana, forcing him to defeat Gideon with his own fist with the help of knives in two-player mode after Ramona kneed him in the crotch and knives disarmed him. The Ten Commandments is a sword that draws the inherent powers of the Rave Stone. It has 10 forms corresponding to the nature of the stone's ability being summoned. Only the Rave Master has the ability to wield the weapon, and only when the Rave Stone is incorporated in the sword will it work. Musica forged it to originally be Shiba Rose's sword, but the latter eventually lends it to Haru Glory upon its succession as the title of Rave Master. The sword has 10 upgrades, the most common being Eyes and Meteor. This is the normal configuration of the sword. The second most common being Explosion. True to its name, creates a small explosion on contact. The most powerful form of the Ten Commandments is Rave. When Musica discovers that a 10th form of the Ten Commandments was never made for Haru, he takes it upon himself to create one. Using a piece of his silver left over from the first 10 Commandments and a mixture of blacksmith and silver manipulation skills, he almost died from exhaustion in the process. Rave has the power to dispel evil and becomes the default sword. Alright, it's time to resheathe this series till the next episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I do plan on doing more episodes in the near future.
I believe.
Stay tuned.
Just gotta keep the lights on, keep the doors open. Oh god, where are you? Oh god!